Before the women's revolution began to take shape in the WWE, there was a revelation. A revelation that respected women's wrestling was well and truly making its return to the WWE. A revelation that appeared in NXT as new and exciting talent such as Emma, Paige, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bayley and Sasha Banks were proving that the term diva would soon be a thing of the past. Since NXT's conception in 2014, these women and many others have showcased their ability in matchups which will always be fondly remembered. One of these matchups was the iconic bout between Sasha Banks and Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship from NXT Takeover Brooklyn in August 2015. On the July 15th episode of Raw, Stephanie McMahon introduced Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks as the women's division's newest members. However, there was no place for the fourth horsewoman. Bayley remained in NXT. In March 2015, Emma instigated a rivalry with Bayley after criticising her for being too nice and cited this as one of the main reasons why Bayley had not won the NXT Women's Championship. The two women feuded for the best part of 2 months before Emma forced Bayley out of action with a broken hand. However, the feud finally culminated on the 22nd of July when Bayley made her triumphant return to defeat Emma and then claimed that she was now setting her sights on the NXT Women's title. But to prove that she was worthy, she needed to beat the best. So Bayley challenged Charlotte Flair to a match and managed to defeat her 2 weeks later on NXT television. Later on in the night, Bayley requested her shot at the Women's Championship. General Manager William Regal granted Bayley's request, but only if she could overcome one last hurdle: a number 1 contenders match with Becky Lynch. Bayley maintained her excellent form though by defeating Lynch, much to the surprise of the champion Sasha Banks, who was on commentary. The champion and her new challenger squared off to end the show. And on the go-home episode of NXT before the pay-per-view, there was a contract signing between Sasha and Bayley to make the match official. Bayley spoke about her trepidation of being in this position before, on the verge of a big title match, but where previously she might have failed, Bayley sensed that this time would be different, and thought that Sasha sensed it too. Of course, Banks denied this and claimed that Bayley simply did not measure up to the boss and that she was scared of her. Banks then looked to exit the ring, but not to be disrespected, Bayley wanted to immediately prove Sasha wrong right there and then, because after all, you know how these contract signings usually go. However, Banks reiterated Emma's comments from earlier in the year by stating how Bayley was not a threat compared to the likes of Charlotte or Becky, which is why she was not called up to the main roster. Sasha would not fight Bayley now because Bayley was not worth her time. A scathing assessment by the boss. But could Bayley prove Sasha wrong, defeat her and become the new NXT Women's Champion at NXT Takeover Brooklyn? What's up wrestling fans, my name is Aaron and this is Wrestling by Wardridge, and welcome to Under Analysis Season 1 Chapter 8, where in today's video I will be looking at the match between Sasha Banks and Bayley for the NXT Women's Championship from NXT Takeover Brooklyn in 2015. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, and if you're returning, it's marvellous to see you again. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe to the channel, please hit that thumbs up button, give it a share across social media, and hit the notification bell to be notified when I release new videos on the channel, as well as Chapter 9 of Under Analysis, which, as always, I will be hinting towards at the end of the video, so make sure you stick around. Bayley makes her way to the ring first, inflatable balloons and all, and then out comes Sasha looking like the absolute boss that she is. The ref calls for the bell, The two competitors meet in the middle of the ring. Sasha begins to insult Bayley, but she's cut off as Bayley takes her down onto the mat. The two women trade shots until Bayley gains the upper hand. She follows up with two sliding lariats and then makes a cover, but the boss kicks out at one. Sasha then counters an Irish whip, sending Bayley into the corner. Sasha thrusts Bayley's head into the turnbuckle, but drawing from the incredible energy from the crowd, Bayley begins to hulk up, and then it's Bayley's turn to thrust Sasha's head into the turnbuckle. She places Sasha in a tree of woe and then hits Sasha with a springboard diving elbow drop. Bayley covers, but Sasha kicks out at one. Awesome innovation by Bayley, and credit to Sasha, who pulled herself up, but at the last second. It was timed perfectly. I also like how Bayley has already attempted 2 pinfalls this early on into the match. I think it just goes to show how much she really wants to become champion. Sasha counters an oncoming Bayley with a roll up for another 1 count, but Bayley maintains control with a lovely springboard arm drag which sends Sasha to the outside of the ring. Sasha argues with the crowd, which then allows Bayley to capitalise with another innovative manoeuvre as she rolls to the outside before nailing Sasha with a dropkick between the bottom rope and the ring apron, but in front of the turnbuckle, kind of in the similar vein of Sami Zayn's Tornado DDT. Sasha is rolled back into the ring, but recovers enough to attack Bayley when she re-enters. And after a brief struggle, it's Sasha's turn to knock Bayley outside of the ring. Whilst Bayley is selling on the outside, Sasha extracts a big reaction from the crowd by striking one of Bayley's signature poses. Bayley rolls back into the ring and attempts to regain her momentum, but Sasha just beats her down. And after Banks continues her assault, she uses another one of Bayley's poses before hitting her with a vicious slap to the face. Excellent heel psychology by Sasha to draw heat from the crowd and gain sympathy for Bayley. Sasha slows the pace of the match down with a couple of submission holds, and then she lays Bayley across the middle ropes but in front of the turnbuckle. She goes for her double knee strike to the midsection, but Bayley counters it by catching her on her right shoulder. However, Sasha now counters Bayley by driving her head into the top turnbuckle pad with her knees. Banks looks to hit the same maneuver prior, but before doing so, she lays Bayley across the top ropes this time. There is an audible gasp from the audience. Sasha hits the big double knee strike to the midsection for the cover, but Bayley kicks out at 2. I liked the idea behind it, but unfortunately, the move did look a little sloppy. It didn't really look very effective. However, Sasha's subsequent facial reactions were fantastic, as she looks shocked that Bayley managed to get her shoulders up. It almost looks as if she has to reaffirm her confidence that she will be able to put Bayley away. Banks begins to trash talk Bayley again, but gets a stiff boot to the face for her troubles. Bayley then performs a drop toe hold to take Sasha down onto the mat, before hitting her with a flurry of punches. Bayley's comeback is short-lived though, as she throws Sasha against the ropes. Sasha avoids Bayley's charge, tosses her out to the ring apron, and then drapes her right arm across the middle ropes so Bayley falls to the outside. Sasha follows her and then displays more excellent heel psychology as she removes Bayley's supportive wrappings from her previously injured hand. Sasha launches Bayley's hand into the steel steps. She then viciously stomps on it, and then she traps the injured hand between the steel steps and the ring before crushing it with a big boot. A very clever game plan indeed. And credit to Bayley, who sells these attacks very well too, by screaming in agony and spending a good chunk of time on the outside nursing her injury. After checking on Bayley, the referee begins his 10 count until Sasha runs the ropes and leapfrogs the referee to hit an amazing tope con hero. Luckily, Bayley got to her feet just in time to catch Sasha as she almost mistimed it. But it looked great and it was awesome athleticism from Sasha. Sasha rolls Bayley back into the ring for a cover, but Bayley kicks out at 2. Great work again by Sasha by immediately going for a cover after hitting the dive. After all, what's the point of taking a risk if you're not going to get the reward after it? Sasha is visibly frustrated now as she begins to trash talk Bayley again, and then proceeds to slap her for the second time in this match. Banks grabs Bayley's hand, climbs up to the top turnbuckle and drapes Bayley's right hand over the top rope again, but she tumbles down to the outside of the ring. Perhaps a move that was born out of desperation, as it wasn't the smartest decision because Banks seemingly inflicted just as much damage to herself. Sasha beats the 10 count to re-enter the ring, and then the two women trade forearm shots which featured great work from Bayley, who was forced to switch to her left hand. Bayley gets the better of the exchange and then hits Sasha with a string of double axe handles, hits her patented shoulder thrust to the corner, and then follows up with a suplex to the corner. The crowd is fired up as Bayley now calls for the Bayley to belly, but Sasha blocks it. Bayley goes for a German suplex, but it's blocked again, so Bayley attempts a roll up, but it's countered into a facebuster. A lovely sequence which leads to Sasha applying the bank statement. Bayley slowly crawls towards the bottom rope. She's a fingertip away from it, but Sasha mercilessly stomps on her injured right hand. Nevertheless, Bayley does get her hand to the bottom rope, but Sasha then propels both women back to the middle of the ring using her feet. But Bayley counters it into her own bank statement. Brooklyn is going mental, though Bayley is unable to properly secure the hold, so Sasha is able to reach the bottom rope. Bayley gets back to her feet, pulls Sasha to hers, and then instantly hits a Bayley to belly. 1, 2, Sasha kicks out. The crowd rightfully chants "This is awesome" as Bayley lifts Sasha to the top turnbuckle. She attempts to hit a Frankensteiner, but unfortunately completely misses Sasha and crashes down onto the mat. An unfortunate botch, but luckily it did not affect the momentum of the match, as Sasha quickly took advantage of the situation by hitting Bayley with a Meteora for the cover, but Bayley gets her shoulder up just before the 3 count. Sasha is at a loss, but this time she lifts Bayley onto the top turnbuckle, but Bayley fights her off, maneuvers herself so that she's behind Sasha, and then hits a bloody brilliant Avalanche Poison Rana. An Avalanche Poison Rana. Holy shit. She follows up with a second Bayley to belly. 1, 2, 3. Bayley is the new NXT Women's Champion. Whilst Bayley is celebrating, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch make their way to the ring to congratulate her. Sasha Banks re-enters the ring and also congratulates Bayley with a hug. All 4 horsewomen raise each other's arms to huge cheers from the crowd as commentary states, "That right there is the women's revolution." This was definitely a match to signal that women's wrestling was back with a bang in the WWE. The central story to this match was very well told, a classic underdog story of the plucky challenger going up against the extremely confident champion. Bayley's body language and facial expressions were great and not only conveyed her sheer determination and desire to overcome the odds and win the match, it also made her character very easy for the crowd to get behind. But while this was very much Bayley's story, I actually thought Sasha was the MVP of this match in terms of her psychology and her storytelling. Firstly, Banks initiated an additional story by attacking Bayley's injured hand, which gave the match some much needed direction heading into its climax. Sasha's startled reactions to Bayley's strong start, as well as every time Bayley fought her way out of a submission or a cover, were great and only enhanced Bayley's role as the resilient underdog. I thought all of the trash talking and taunting helped to make Sasha look like a bully who you really wanted to see get her comeuppance, and all of these actions also doubled up as examples of excellent heel psychology. I thought Sasha did a terrific job at working the heat despite being favoured by the crowd at times. Sasha attacking Bayley's injured hand made a ton of sense and was the obvious game plan heading into this match. I loved it when Sasha took off Bayley's hand wrappings. The little details always matter, and I thought Bayley did a very good job of selling the injured hand for the majority of the match, especially after Sasha crushed it, although it did become a little inconsistent towards the end of the match. But the selling in general was solid, to be honest. It got better and better as time went on, and we all know how good Sasha is when it comes to bumping. As for the work rate, I was a little more torn on the rating for it because there were more than a couple of missteps. It wasn't a huge surprise though when it comes to a match of this magnitude. You really want to be pulling out all of the stops. And for the most part, Sasha and Bayley did just that. There was a lot of brawling to begin with, which gave way to a more technical matchup, and then we saw more high-risk action leading up to the finish. So there was a nice diversification of styles. And we saw excellent creativity from both women who performed maneuvers that you seldom saw in a WWE women's match, or a men's match for that matter. The Avalanche Poison Rana in particular was a thing of beauty, which unsurprisingly got a massive reaction from the audience. But this wasn't the only maneuver that created excitement for this match. Sasha's Tope con Hero and Bayley's springboard moves were all great spots, and I thought the consecutive bank statements drastically increased the level of drama which was maintained by all of the effective near falls. The crowd were super into this match from start to finish. There were dueling chants for both women, "This is awesome" chants, "This is wrestling" chants. The match may have been slightly predictable because of Sasha's call-up, but this did not affect the fans' enjoyment whatsoever. For me, the pacing was a little off once Sasha took control of the match. I don't mind a slower pace, but there really wasn't anything of significance happening, besides a couple of taunts from Sasha until she started to work over Bayley's hand. However, the tempo did pick up nicely as the match progressed into its latter stages. The match lasted 18 minutes and 16 seconds, which is great, but I think the match still could have easily shaved off 3 or 4 minutes to prevent any filler from happening, or perhaps Sasha could have launched her attack on Bayley's hand earlier into the match. On the other hand though, I thought the finish was fantastic. Sasha proved that a simple Bayley to belly would not be enough to put her away, so Bayley needed to hit a big maneuver beforehand to accompany her finisher. And I think that a Poison Rana fits the bill. It was a photo finish for sure, which featured clever psychology. Dave Meltzer rated this at 4.5 stars, which is probably a fair rating, although personally I would give it a 4.75. I wouldn't even begrudge anyone that gives this match a 5-star rating, because at the end of the day it's a fantastic match which helped revolutionise women's wrestling in the WWE. But be sure to let me know what rating you would give this match in the comment section down below. Also, please let me know if you enjoyed this video. Please remember to hit that subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WrestlingByW. Give the video a share, Bayley to belly that like button, and give the notification bell a bank statement to be notified when I release new videos on the channel. I hope you all have great days, and I shall see you all for the next one. Bye bye.